If the Big Ten is going to get a national championship this season, who's it going to be? And welcome into the Big Ten Huddle basketball. So glad to have basketball back. It's not here yet. We're still a couple weeks away, but we are getting right into, actually at this point, when I release this, it's going to be about a week away for us to get back into some Big Ten basketball. I got to be honest, I cover Big Ten basketball and football. I love covering football. I actually probably know more about football than I do basketball. It's probably terrible to me to say because you guys are going to come at me now, but I love covering basketball because there is so much more parity. There's so much more reaction. There's so many more games. And to me, it is so much more fun to cover. So when somebody asked me one time, they said, are we still going to be covering basketball this season? I said, yes, there is no way I'm not covering basketball this year. I love it. I love basketball, and I love talking about these Big Ten teams. There's so much parity in this conference, just like there always has been and there always will be. So if we're going to talk about Big Ten basketball, the first thing we have to do is release my power rankings. So as you can see, they're here next to me. I would like to let you know before you get all hot and bothered and, terrible about everything that's going on, do remember these are power rankings. These are not predictions for how the standings will be at the end of the season. Power rankings mean this is where I think the current state of the team lines up against other teams. So you may be going into the season and saying, JR, USC has way more of a talented team than Northwestern. And I would say, okay, have they proven it? Have they worked well with this coach yet? Does their game work well with this coach? We don't know, right? Have they been a coach in the Big Ten yet, right? There are people out here saying Iowa could win the Big Ten. Ben McCollum's never coached a game in the Big Ten, all right? Spoiler alert, if you're listening on podcasts, I don't have Iowa very high because I do not believe in this team yet. Doesn't mean I don't believe in them at all or that I won't believe them later in the season, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it. The number one team I have in my Big Ten basketball power rankings, which, by the way, if you're still here, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'm sure I've already got a dislike from some Iowa fan for calling them out, which, in fairness, if I was a fan of Iowa and I was watching this, I'd probably hit the dislike button too. I encourage you not to, but I get it. If you're listening on podcast, 5-star rating and review helps us out as well. Really appreciate everybody who does that. Again, reminder, Big Ten basketball power rankings, preseason power rankings are all about where the team is at right now. It's not about where am I predicting they'll be at the end of the season. It's not about standings. It's not about how good I think they'll be once they get some injury guys back. Where are they right now? That is what I do with my power rankings. So let's start with the team that is number one in everybody's power rankings, regardless in Big Ten basketball of how you do it. It's the Purdue Boilermakers. They are number one in national championship odds in college basketball right now, plus 900, a full 100 higher than Houston, 200 higher than Duke, and then more and more teams under them there. Huge season for Purdue. I asked the question at the beginning, can a team from the Big Ten win the national championship this season? If it's going to happen, it's going to be the Purdue Boilermakers that do it. Unfortunately, I don't think there's enough other teams with that kind of ceiling. If everything hits right for Michigan, they might be able to do that. I think Illinois has kind of a long shot, dark horse chance to do that. And I think UCLA, if they get some production from some certain players, they could do that as well. But overall, this Purdue team is the team that is going to win the national championship for the Big Ten this year if anybody does it. We'll see if it happens, but, the combination of Omar Mayer and Oscar Clough coming in, the craziest thing is Omar Mayer probably won't even play all that much this season. And Daniel Jacobson is a star in waiting on the bench, I think. And I think we're going to see him this season. He may not get a ton of playing time. In fact, I probably think he won't behind Oscar Clough and Shea Kaufman-Renn, but he is going to get in the game. He is going to be a good player because guess what? That's what Matt Painter does. If there is a coach in this conference that I trust the most, it is Matt Painter. Now, do I trust him the most in the NCAA tournament? I do trust him a good amount, but I trust Tom Izzo more in the NCAA tournament. NCAA tournament. I can't even say the words right now. So I'm so amped up about basketball starting. But I do trust Matt Painter a lot, especially in Big Ten play. So for me, Purdue number one, Braden Smith, very deep team too. That's the other part of this that I don't think anybody can rank anybody over Purdue at this point, because even if Purdue has Oscar Clough go down, heaven forbid, if that happens, you got Daniel Jacobson. If Trey Kaufman-Renn goes down, you got Daniel Jacobson. You got Braden Smith goes down, you got Omer Mayer, right? Fletcher Loyer goes down, you got CJ Cox. You got guys on this team that can come in and make stuff happen for you. It hurt losing Miles Colvin and Cam Heide in the offseason, but and then Oscar Clough and Omer Mayer, I think you just added better players, in my opinion, and players that fit with their skill set into what Matt Painter wants to do, at least with these groups of guys. Maybe Matt Painter would adjust to them in a different season, but at least with the group of guys that Matt Painter has, I think it fits really well. So, Purdue Boilermakers, number one. Don't think there's much argument there, but if you want to argue with it, I guess feel free. I'm not going to listen to it very much, though. All right, number two, UCLA. Now, this is kind of where we're getting into the discussion of what I said at the beginning, right? Some of you are going to say, JR, Michigan's number two, no doubt. Well, maybe. I do think that Michigan brought in a lot of good players, but we need to see how these players mesh together before we start writing Michigan in as the for sure number two team in this conference. They lost Trey Donaldson. They lost Vlad Golden. Trey Donaldson was a huge piece for them in late game situations last year, and obviously Vlad Golden did a ton for this team, and Danny Wolf was a spectacular player, turned the ball over a lot, but even with those turnovers, he had enough production and brought enough versatility to this team that they could do so many things with him. You replace Vlad Golden with essentially Adai Mara and Danny Wolf with not exactly one for one, but Merez Johnson. Really the replacement here is Yaxel Lindeborg, but I think that they have nice pieces that they're going to add here, but I'm curious to see how they put them all together, and I'm curious to see what they do with their shooting this season. You bring back Damari Burnett, that's good, but we need to see what happens. Anyway, I'm on UCLA right now. UCLA, number two. I think Donovan Dent was the best add that anybody had in the offseason in the Big Ten. I think he fits Mick Cronin's style, his play, perfectly. So when sometimes you bring in a guy and I'm like, well, we'll see how he fits into the system. I know for a fact that Donovan Dent is going to fit perfectly into Mick Cronin's system. And then on top of that, I think you have the best trio of role players of anywhere else in the Big Ten. Now, you could say, well, JR, some of these guys are stars. That's what makes them so great, right? Tyler Bilodeau, Eric Daly Jr., and Sky Clark are the best collection of role players in a starting lineup in the Big Ten, and they might be one of the best in all of college basketball, in my opinion. These guys are fantastic. Tyler Bilodeau, over 13 points per game last year. Eric Daly Jr. not far behind, over 11 points per game. And Sky Clark was a consistent threat from the outside. Even if he wasn't hitting, he was somebody that teams had to respect. Losing Sebastian Mack, that hurts. I get it. But overall, I think the addition of Donovan Dent is huge for them. The notable returners of the three that I just mentioned, I do think you're going to need to get some stuff out of Xavier Booker and some of the other big men. Jamar Brown, you brought in as well. You're going to need to get some stuff out of those guys. But I don't think those guys have to be, the best thing ever. As long as they're solid, I think you have a really good outlook in the season here for UCLA. So Donovan Dent, huge addition for me. That's why I have him there number two. For Michigan, kind of talked about it earlier, but you lose three really good players, and Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden were really good. Trey Donaldson had some really good moments, right, where he was able to kind of be clutch, hit some of those shots to really help you out at times. I don't think this team is going to turn the ball over as much without Danny Wolf, but I do have fear that they're going to be leaning on guys like Roddy Gale and Will Cheddar too much. Will Cheddar, nice piece to bring off the bench, but I don't think he's going to be a starting, a good start. I shouldn't say good, not a good starter. I'm concerned about relying on him too much this season, and I'm concerned about relying on Roddy Gale too much this season. Merez Johnson, Yaxel Lindeborg, Adai Mara, I love those players. I think that they're good players. Elliot Cadeau is going to be your ball handler most likely on this team, and he's just not much of a shooter, right? That's kind of my biggest thing with this Michigan team. So I want to see how they all kind of progress together outside of the chemistry and seeing how they're all put together. This is a really, really talented team. They're thought of as number 2 or 3 in the Big Ten by pretty much everybody out there for good reason. But we need to see how this team meshes together. I fully expect them to finish 2nd or 3rd at worst in the Big Ten this season. If they finish anything lower than 3rd in the Big Ten, I think it's probably going to be because of injury, maybe just missing shots too much. We'll see what happens. But I think this Michigan team is going to be really, really good this season, and we'll see what happens. All right. Number 4, I have the Fighting Illini, Illinois. And honestly, if you were asking me who are the, two most talented teams in this conference, I'd say Purdue and then I'd say Illinois. The problem with Illinois is they do have some kind of roster drama going on right now, right? And I think other people doing power rankings the way I'm doing them here would probably have them lower, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because I trust Brad Underwood. I trust Brad Underwood to get his guys right. I trust him that he knows how this process works with bringing in players. You had Thomas Lavisic. He had his tonsils taken out. He should be good for game one. I don't expect that to keep him out. Andre Stojakovic, he's going to be good for game one. Every indication is that he's progressing well. Things are going well for him. And then Zvonimir Visic, he was hitting shots and doing a good job in his in their last scrimmage with him. And then David Merkovich, I think this David Merkovich guy, or David Merkovich is going to be a star for this Illinois team. I think that there were a lot of people writing him off when they got him last season, saying, "Oh, great, you got a big man from overseas." He is very physical. He's very rugged, very tough down low, and I think that he's going to fit in well in the Big Ten. And some of these teams in the Big Ten that are going to try to put, maybe some longer, lankier guys at the 4 who can shoot, they're going to have a really hard time going up against David Merkovich. I think he's going to be physical. He's going to be tough with them. And I think that he has a real fighting spirit that is going to be served on this team very, very well. So I'm excited about that. The big question, and honestly, it's the reason why I have Illinois this low, Mihail Petrovic. I am looking for Petrovic to be one of the reasons why this Illinois team is so good this season with his ball handling ability. Keaton Wagler is most likely going to be in this starting lineup instead of him. Wagler, good defender in the exhibitions from what we've seen so far, but overall, I am not super fond of what's going to happen here with the ball handling unless Mihailo Petrovic comes in. And even if he does come in, it's not like he's been practicing with the team. So you have some potential chemistry issues there. Again, I trust Brad Underwood. I trust his coaching staff to get this done. They have worked with overseas players for years now. And it wasn't just the past 2 years. Going back 6-7 years, they've had overseas players before. So he knows what he's doing. He's going to get him in. Even if he doesn't get here first game, he's going to be here very quickly after that, and we'll see what happens. There could be a little bit of a slow start in the out of conference. You have Texas Tech early on, but overall, I think that this Illinois team is going to be very good this season, and I think they'll climb up the power rankings. Even if they drop a little bit in the out of conference, they'll climb right back up there in Big Ten play. Excited for what this team can do, and I think that everybody needs to be on the lookout for the Fighting Illini this season. Number 5. And some people are going to say, JR, your explanations and everything made sense, but not so much now. And I get it. 0 returning players for the Indiana Hoosiers at number 5. Listen, I love the hire of Darren. How do you pronounce it, right? Aaron DeVries. I got in trouble in the postseason last year when they hired him, and everybody was upset with me for saying the name wrong. Listen, I'm rusty. All right, give me a break here. Darren DeVries. I think he is the answer at Indiana, and I know, man. Everybody's gonna be like, man, this guy, he's gonna believe in Indiana. Who's good? I think he is the answer. I love the brand of basketball that he is setting up here with these guys. It's going to be run and gun, 3-pointers all over the place. Lamar Wilkerson, I love the addition of him. I think that his son, DeVries, is going to do a great job. Tucker, he's going to do a great job there as well. I love Reed Bailey. I think that you have so many playmakers on this team, and you have a good point guard, primary ball handler, and Tayton Connerway that is going to be unselfish and just do his best to distribute the ball as much as possible. Miles from North Florida as well. He's a great addition to this team. I love what Darren DeVries did in the offseason, bringing in players. You could argue that they don't have enough of a big man presence, and I think that is valid to a certain extent, but I also think we're kind of lost in old Big Ten a little bit right now when we talk about that. I think that the new way of the Big Ten is kind of changing things where you don't have to have that bruiser down low like you used to. There are some teams that are still gonna kind of subscribe to that theory a little bit, but You look at what Purdue is doing. You look at what Michigan is doing. Like, you don't have to have the big bruiser down low. Illinois is doing it. UCLA. You need good guard play. You need a good coach who knows who he is and knows who his team is. I think Indiana is going to come out of the gates. They're going to come out of the gates firing. They're going to be a very hot team who's going to be, win a lot of games in their out of conference. So I like this Indiana team. We'll see what it looks like once it's the conference play. But I think this Indiana team is going to be top 25 pretty quick when they start winning a bunch of games and winning a bunch of games by a large margin too. So really, really excited for Indiana this season. They are the highest I am on of any team that is bringing in a ton of transfers, and really a lot of it has to do with Darren DeVries, what he is going to do with this team and how he's bringing all these guys in. So it's going to go out on a limb and say it. If I'm wrong, feel free to let me know in the comments. But, man, I'm super excited for this Indiana team this season and what we could see. All right, number six, I got Michigan State. Now, Michigan State, I've been forgetting to do my odds here. Michigan State is plus 5,000 in odds to win the national championship this season, according to FanDuel. All right, so FanDuel has them pretty high up there, and honestly, they are, I Bleav, the fifth highest team in the Big Ten. You have Purdue at plus 900 on FanDuel, followed by Michigan plus 1,900. Illinois is tied with Michigan at plus 1,900, and then UCLA plus 2,500. And then fifth is Michigan State, and for good reason, too. I mean, this Michigan State team is bringing back a lot of talent. Now, they did have the injury in the offseason that leads you to some concern there, right? But overall, this Michigan State team, they have brought in a lot of good players. They did lose Jace Richardson, Jaden Akins, Trey Holloman. Like, I get that. But I almost wonder if losing some of those guys, obviously not Jace Richardson, but I almost wonder if losing a guy like Trey Holloman and Xavier Booker is going to be good for you. I think Cohen Carr is going to be a star this season. I really like the way that Jackson Kohler has continued to develop his game. His development as a rebounder last year was really, really good. I think Jeremy Fears is going to take a step this season. My only concern with Michigan State is who's going to be the guy, right? I think you have a lot of really good players on this team that can do a lot for you, but I don't know if any of them have that guy, that the dude potential on this team. Jace Richardson was that for them last year. He's off to the NBA now. You have Trey Fort, Caleb Glenn. I Bleav he got injured in the offseason, though. Very sad to see that. And then Cam Ward, he's coming in as a highly rated recruit. Can Cam Ward come in and, as the freshman, do what Jace Richardson did? Maybe, but it's probably not going to happen right away. If we knew that Michigan State had a dude on this team, they'd be fifth for sure. No way about it. They'd be fifth. But I'm just kind of concerned who's going to be the guy for this Michigan State team. I'm not going to doubt Tom Izzo. I think Tom Izzo is going to get right back to the tournament again this year. He's going to probably be at least second, third, maybe even Elite Eight again this season. We'll see. But he's bringing back his dudes. He's bringing back his guys. And Carson Cooper, as I said last year, one of the most underrated defenders in the Big Ten. This is not a pro Carson Cooper podcast, but if we were going to be pro a player that everybody seems to be down on, sure, let's make it Carson Cooper, because I do like his defense and what he can bring to the table for this Michigan State team. One of the most underrated players in the Big Ten, in my opinion, for two reasons. One, they just don't think he's very good. And two, what he's good at is what a lot of people don't take in consideration a lot of the time, and that's his defense. All right, let's move on here to number 7. Number 7 is Oregon, and Oregon is another team that honestly I probably would have a little bit higher, but the broken hand for Jackson Shelstad does give me a little bit of pause of what that's going to look like this season. But you got to know by now, this isn't just a team made up of Jackson Shelstad and Nate Biddle. This is a team that's been put together by Dana Altman. And Dana Altman is one of the coaches that I trust the most. You heard me talk about Tom Izzo, trusting him in the tournament. You heard me talk about Matt Painter, how much I trust him in Big Ten play. When it comes to March, Dana Altman is the coach I trust in this conference. Now, there's other coaches I trust too, don't get me wrong. But Dana Altman is a dude that I trust. And you don't just get to March and win on accident. Dana Altman is going to have these guys put together. I do think that this could be a really good opportunity for some of the younger players and players that aren't going to be playing as much when Shelstad gets back, because I Bleav he's out for like 4 to 6 weeks. So he should be back after just a couple weeks. Could be back by the beginning of the season. But we'll see what happens with Jackson Shelstad. Regardless, even with him out, I trust Nate Biddle. I trust I trust Dana Altman, and I trust the additions that they made in the offseason as well. They have Devin Pryor coming in from Texas, Takai Simpkins from Elon. Man, I think he's going to be good. And then Sean Stewart from Ohio State, really just a defensive rebounding machine that they're bringing in as well. Don't totally trust the depth on this team, especially the big man depth, but Sean Stewart, at the very least, is a good rebounder to bring in. You just lost a lot of dudes on this team. Brandon Angel, TJ Bamba, Keyshawn Bartholomew. We'll see what happens with Oregon this year, but Nate Biddle coming back is huge. Dana Altman is huge, and Jackson Shelstad, once he comes back from that injury, I think it's going to be big stuff from them. If Jackson Shelstad hadn't gotten injured, honestly, I may have Oregon at number 5, but we'll see what happens, and hopefully Jackson Shelstad, speedy recovery, and we don't even have to talk about this broken hand injury at all, and he gets back in 4 weeks, and he plays right away. All right, number 8 are the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, Ohio State arguably has the most talent returning of anybody in Big Ten basketball outside of Purdue this season, right? They have a ton of talent coming back. Michigan State has some talent coming back, but that's like role player talent. Ohio State has their best player, Bruce Thornton, returning. 2 really good players that stepped up last season, both averaged 13 points or more per game, and that's Devin Royal and John Mobley Jr. Devin Royal has increased his size. He's up to about 230 right now, I heard, which is good for him. And John Mobley Jr. is continuing to develop not only as a shooter, but with the ball in his hand as well. The thing that I like most about this Ohio State team is obviously the players coming back, but there is a huge player that is going to play this season that was on the team, but he was injured all last year. I don't know if he's going to be the best point guard in the Big Ten or anything like that, okay? I'm not trying to hype him up and say, he's going to be transformational the game or anything, but I do think what he does for this Buckeyes team is going to be huge, and it's Tayson Chapman. Now, Tayson Chapman was injured all of last season, and it put the Ohio State team in a bit of a bind because Bruce Thornton was having to take care of the ball and be the primary ball handler on the team more than they wanted him to. And I keep hearing people talk about, well, Gabe Cupps is going to have to play 30, 25 minutes a game. No, this is going to be Tayson Chapman. He is going to be one of the best primary ball handlers. I think he's going to be the best primary ball handler on this team because this team is going to be able to utilize Bruce Thornton off the ball more. You're going to see Devin Royal, he's bulked up like I talked about, and then Christoph Tilley is going to be a huge addition down low for this team as well. Brandon Knoll, he is another addition coming in from Wright State. Hopefully he's better than the last player they had come in from Wright State, but I just think you're losing a few players on this team, but what you gained is so much better than what you lost. So Ohio State, number 8, I honestly kind of thought about putting them 5 or 6. But for me, I just need to see it from Jake Diebler. Jake Diebler had a rough time last season. He had the injuries. He had Aaron Bradshaw that wasn't playing there for a while. Sean Stewart was in foul trouble pretty much every single game. So but I think last year, Jake Diebler kind of got a taste of the adversity that comes with the Big Ten. I think he's going to be more ready for it this year. I'm not ready to say I trust him yet. He's not on my list of coaches that I trust, but I don't think I distrust Jake Diebler. I want to see what happens with him this season. I want to see how this team progresses, and we'll go from there. All right, number 9. Number 9, I have the Northwestern Wildcats, and you're going to see a lot of Big Ten power ranking lists out there. Anybody that has Northwestern in, let's say, 16 or below, discredit them. They don't know what they're talking about, okay? This Northwestern team has Nick Martinelli, who is my favorite player in the conference to watch, okay? Nick Martinelli is my favorite. He has like this old school kind of build and attitude part to his game that I love. KJ Wyndham is coming back as well. Now, they do lose Brooke Barnheiser, Jalen Leach, Ty Berry, but I think some of those guys you're okay with losing, right? You're bringing in Max Green, Jaden Reed, a couple of other guys. You have the 4-star Trey Singleton coming in as well. This is a team in Northwestern where, yes, maybe not every single piece of this team is known and how it will work out yet, but what is known is Chris Collins is one of the more underrated coaches in college basketball, and Nick Martinelli is one of the best players in the Big Ten. And I think a combination of those two, as long as you have reliable players that don't mess up, and what do we know about Chris Collins' teams? We have reliable players who get the job done. So I'm going to go with Northwestern there at number 9. Going to go through the rest of these pretty quick. I have Wisconsin at number 10. I like this Wisconsin roster. I just don't know how it's going to all work together, right? I like Nick Boyd. I like Austin Rapp, bringing them in. Andrew Rohde, his addition. I think he's going to be a nice piece for this team. But you are relying a lot on John Blackwell and Nolan Winter here, and you lost John Tonji. John Tonji was, he was what made this team cook last year, and so I think John Tonji leaving is going to be a big hindrance to this Wisconsin team. Do I think they're going to finish 10th? No, not necessarily, but coming in with so many new players, John Blackwell, Nolan Winter, nice players to build off of, but I don't know if I trust building off of them right away as much as I do some other players. So I have Wisconsin there at number 10. Number 11, I have USC, almost in Washington because I had my notes there wrong. Sorry. USC, they have a bunch of new players coming in here, and this is another one of those teams where it's just like so many new players. I can't really put them all that high because I just don't know how it's going to work out. Now, I might eat those words when I talk about Indiana, but I explained them. I think they're all going to work really well together. But Rodney Rice, he was a wonderful addition coming in from Maryland. Chad Baker Mazzara, man, I guess you can call me a hater if you want. I just don't know that I trust Chad Baker Mazzara with this USC coaching staff. All right, listen, I'm not trying to disparage anybody. Just I don't know what the connection, not the connection, what the experience of an Eric Musselman and a Chad Baker Mazzara is going to look like. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I just don't know, right? We're going to have to see what this looks like. But regardless, I like Rodney Rice. I like the addition there. You got the guy coming in, the 7-footer from Youngstown State, Gabe Dines coming in as well. There's some nice pieces on this team. I just don't know how it's going to all work together just yet. So USC talent, but we'll see. I think Eric Musselman has done a good job, but I'm curious to see what that relationship between him and Chad Baker Mazzara looks like this year. Number 12, I have the Maryland Terrapins to see how they play out this season after losing, basically in the same boat as Indiana, basically losing everybody on their team. Derek Queen, Jacoby Gillespie, Rodney Rice, Julian Reese, Sento Magul. This was one of the best starting lineups in all of college basketball last year. They're all gone. You bring in Pharrell Payne, Miles Rice, Isaiah Watts, Solomon Washington. Good players. I think that these are nice additions. I'm just concerned, where is the scoring going to be for this Texas A&M team? I think Texas A&M last year, obviously they had some nice players that could kind of pick up the scoring for them, especially in SEC play. But I'm concerned. Are we really going to think that that Miles Rice is going to turn into the primary scorer on this team? Maybe. I don't think that. That Indiana got the most out of him last year. Definitely think he kind of took a dip in his game, but I'm not ready to say that he's just going to come in and be the primary scorer for this team. I like Pharrell Payne a lot. I liked him when he was at Minnesota. I think that you have a good player in Miles Rice there to add to it, but I think this Maryland team might be in for a bit of a drop off, and we'll see where it goes from here. Washington, I have next, and Washington, I think, is a team with Danny Sprinkle that's obviously bringing in a whole bunch of new players. Great Osipor and Tyler Harris are gone, but you have Desmond Claude coming in, right? Coming in from USC. He had a little bit of a hard time there, but just a really, really good scorer. Jacob Ognjenovic, he comes in from Lipscomb. I like that addition of him. Bryson Tucker from Indiana, and Wesley Yates III is also coming in here. So you basically take the two guys from USC last year, you put them on Washington. Maybe Danny Sprinkle can do something different with them, but they were not exactly they didn't help USC become a spectacular team last year, right? So you do have some continuity there between those two guys, but I am concerned that Washington might just be going out there and spending a bunch of NIL, and Danny Sprinkle might not be able to put it all together. We'll see what happens, but Desmond Claude, Wesley Yates, they had some good players last year. I like Ognjenovic coming in for them as well from Lipscomb, but overall, I'm kind of like in wait and see mode with this Washington team, and having them this low, it's going to look like I don't like them or I don't think they're a good team. It's not necessarily the case. I think they could definitely be a tournament team this year. I think they could finish in the top 5 in the Big Ten this year with all the talent they have. I just want to see how Danny Sprinkle puts it all together. He's kind of in the same boat as Jake Diebler for me right now. But I do have a little bit more trust for him because of his time at Utah State. I Bleav that's where he was at Utah State. So we'll see what happens here. But there's a ton of turnover in year 2 for Danny Sprinkle here, and we'll have to see how it all works out. All right, I'm going to take a sneeze really fast. All right, Iowa. You have Dembele being gone, obviously. First and foremost, McCaffrey is gone. I don't know why I mentioned Dembele before the head coach. McCaffrey is gone. You bring in Ben McCollum, and there's a lot of hype for this team because Ben McCollum is basically bringing in his best players from Drake and having them come in now. Chief among them is Bennett Sturts. Now, Bennett Sturts had a really good season last year, and I think that Bennett Sturts is going to be really good for Iowa this season. Again, this is not a prediction of where these teams fit, where these teams are going to be in the standings. This is me looking at this team and saying, okay, Drake was a bit of a gimmicky team last year, right? Holding on to the ball so much, didn't really run and gun with them at all. I don't think that's going to work in the Big Ten. So Ben McCollum is going to have to adjust his kind of play style, adjust his team in my opinion, and we're going to see how that works out. Like I said, you lose a lot of good players on this Iowa team, Josh Dix, Owen Freeman, guys like that, but you do bring in Bennett Sturts, Taven Banks, Khalil Combs. Like, you bring in some good guys from Drake. I just want to see, can a team from the mid-major level in Drake just basically bring in their starting lineup and do well in the Big Ten? Heck, it had happened with Kirk Cinetti at Indiana, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll just happen here. But I want to see it before I start really believing in it. Looking back, maybe I should have switched Iowa and Maryland here, but overall, I just want to see how this works out. Ben McCollum is, he was a really good coach at Drake, but he was only there for what, 1 year, right? Like, this is that's a big jump after just 1 year. So I just want to see how it works out. Now it's not all Drake players coming in. They have the Alvaro Fulgaris, I Bleav is his name, from Robert Morris coming in. Like, they have some other dudes. I'm probably discounting it by saying they just brought in a bunch of players from Drake. But I just want to see how this works out for Ben McCollum. Only 1 year at Drake. He's coming up to the Big Ten right away. I feel like we need to pump the brakes a little bit on this Iowa team. Right now, they are right behind Michigan State with odds to win the national championship on FanDuel at plus 6,000, tied for Wisconsin, and they're actually above teams like Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. USC is plus 8,000. Maybe they'll turn out to be that. Maybe they will. But for now, I have my questions, and I want to see how this team plays out. Maybe the out of conference will be really, really good for them, and then we'll see what it looks like in the Big Ten play. I just kind of have my questions for now, and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, next I have, and we're gonna run through these ones pretty quick. Next I have Nebraska. The Nebraska Cornhuskers. They get Rank Mast back, which is really, really good for them. I love Rank Mass, and I think that he's going to be a really good addition to bring back for them. But overall, this is a Nebraska team that I'm not sure what we're going to see from them this season. Connor Essegian is returning, but he was barely over 10 points per game last year. I think they needed more of him, and maybe that's not exactly fair to Connor Essegian, but he just couldn't give it to him. Bryce Sanford, he comes in from Iowa, but I think Bryce Williams did a lot for this team last year to kind of keep them in the hunt and keep them going for stuff at the end of the season. And then when Bryce Williams just couldn't be enough for you, I really question what this Nebraska team is going to look like. Rank Mass, really good option to bring back, but he's just coming off of injury. Maybe he'll be better than he was before. I know there's some thought process out there about that, but we will see what happens with Nebraska this year. Minnesota. You lose a lot of really good players with Minnesota. Of course, you do hire Nico Medved, who I think is a good coach, but I think it might take him a little bit of time. He's bringing in some players. Jalen Crocker Johnson from Colorado State. Bobby Durkin, I think, was a nice addition for them as well. Mike Mitchell Jr. Mike Mitchell Jr. is gone, but you did bring in some other guys. Cade Tyson is probably the guy here that I'm looking for the most to be the biggest scorer on this team. Now, it's nice that they have a scorer. Maybe I should have put them above Nebraska for that reason, but I don't know if this roster is good enough to really compete right away in the Big Ten. Maybe they'll get better as the season moves on, but we'll have to see for sure. And then finally, my last two teams, I have Penn State at number 17. I like the addition of the freshman, Caden Mingo. He's going to be the primary ball handler for this team. If you listen to Mike Rhodes at the Big Ten Media Days, he was very, very adamant that Caden Mingo is going to be a huge piece of their team this year. But losing Ace Baldwin Jr., Puff Johnson, Nick Kern, DeMarco Dunn, Zach Hicks, I mean, all these dudes. You lost all these dudes. Niederhauser. We'll see what it looks like this season. They brought in a couple transfers, Josh Reed from Cincinnati and Sasa Siani from UIC. We'll see what it looks like, but I do not have super high hopes for the Nittany Lions this season. And then finally, Rutgers. No notable returning players for Rutgers. Lathan Somerville, he was added to the Washington team, so he's not on this team right now. Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey are both gone. You brought in a couple of dudes. You brought in a good recruit in Chris Newwoolley. So we'll see what he can do for you, Tariq Francis. But really, you look down this roster, it's just not a very good roster for Rutgers this year. Could be a really good defensive team. We'll see. Pico does a good job of getting his guys ready in that way. But overall, we'll see what it looks like for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights this season. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please do like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Really appreciate you being here. And we'll see how the Big Ten plays out this year. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.